the Division Heartland has been canceled. And that's a thing that I hoped I would never say. And I do have some thoughts about it. So you're going to see a lot of people talking about, like, there's more I could say about this, but I can't. People who played in, I want to say it was like alpha and beta tests that were closed. Without tooting my own horn too much, I was part of a different group, essentially an elite task force, similar to what was used in Division 1 and 2 to do the big patches and kind of community advised fixes to the games. There was essentially that, but for Heartland, since late 2020, I believe. It may have been early 2021. And most of what I saw and did during that is NDA'd, and I can't talk about it. But I will say I believe I have unique thoughts about what happened. So let's get into it. So I woke up on Wednesday morning and was pretty promptly met with this headline here. Ubisoft cancels the Division Heartland. I believe it was during an investor call or a shareholder call. They announced a whole bunch of stuff, including this. And it's interesting. It's very frustrating. It's also been very educational, right? So I think the frustration for me comes in that in the article it cites that they mentioned that the resources that are going to be saved from canceling this are going to move over to X Defiant and Rainbow Six Siege, which I understand from a technical point of view why you would do that. Rainbow Six Siege is one of Ubisoft's most consistently still successful games. X Defiant is targeting a player base, a potential player base that's much larger than anything the Division's ever seen. Even though I think that's not going to happen. I think X Defiant will be lucky if it still has open servers in a year. But, I'm not throwing shade. I'm just acknowledging the game that I've played for multiple years, and I don't get any hype around it. But what do I know? I think until I'm waiting to find out what I can say about what I did for the last 4 years, and the things I saw and kind of the impressions I have. One of the biggest takeaways I'll have from Heartland is now having just a glimpse of how heartbreaking or how just challenging it must be to be a game developer nowadays. You're working a job where it seems like the job security is just abysmal. You're working a job where even if you do get to keep your job, you could work on projects for years that literally just never see the light of day. This isn't even breaking NDA stuff because it seems so obvious, in my opinion at least, that like the Division Heartland had the Division level of detail map of this place, this gigantic, detailed, well-lit map that will just never be used, more than likely. That's just gone. Poof, out of existence. And it's years and years of work and blood, sweat, and tears from developers. Think about being a developer that got hired 4 years ago at Red Storm, has worked on this only that entire time, and now what's on your resume? After all that time, 4 years is a long time to work, especially it seems like in the games, development industry. So for now, that's kind of my general, just like thoughts about this. I think the more interesting part of this conversation is here from Ryan Smith, who's a former Red Storm developer, who probably broke NDA here, but they posted a quote tweet of that IGN article as follows. I was part of a small team that started this in 2019. Was originally meant to be a low risk BR mode for the Division 2. It had a pretty clear plan and was going well, but Ubi and Red Storm had ... other ideas, and it changed drastically. Sad it won't ever see the light of day. So, let me be very clear that what I'm about to say is in reaction to this tweet and information in this tweet exclusively, and any opinions I have are from this tweet. To be very clear, wink, right? So this sucks because if you think back, and people may or may not remember, that not long after the Division 2 came out, before the Division 2 came out, there was all of this talk about the conflict mode, the little PvP mode, and in the DZ getting a lot of attention and a lot of love from Red Storm. That the PvP side of the game has often been their focus, and they've I think that PvP in the Division has always been pretty rough and has rarely been in a good state, but at least having a studio really paying attention to it was good. But if you remember, not that long after the Division 2 came out, Red Storm kind of disappeared, and all these plans that seemed like were in place for conflict mode in the DZ basically went up in smoke, as it seems Massive had very little interest in dealing with PvP at all in the game. And the reason Red Storm left, we eventually learned, and it made sense, was to make Heartland. And according to this tweet, it seems like at one point they were developing a Survival 2.0 mode, is what I assume his BR mode was, that then got promoted to a standalone experience. And what's so frustrating about that to me is that means that, one, if they had just done that BR experience, the Survival 2.0, which a lot of people have been asking for from the Division 2, it would have released, almost certainly, and they wouldn't have spent 4 years trying to make a standalone game that now will end up never coming out, right? It also means that Red Storm likely would have stayed on in some capacity with the Division 2, continuing to enhance and balance conflict mode, the DZ PvP, and so on and so forth. And so I think for me, that's the most frustrating part, is that they could have released Survival 2.0 and they didn't. And I do want to, as I am trying to do the mental gymnastics and dance around, make sure I don't say anything I'm not supposed to. I'll end this video with two thoughts. One, I kind of get why they didn't do the Survival 2.0 though, because as much as the hardcore community loves Survival in Division 1, it's easy to forget that outside of the first week it came out and that free week they did years later, you rarely ever got full servers, especially in PvP on Survival, and it probably just wasn't that popular of a mode. As much as it was a cult classic, and the super fans of the Division really loved it, it probably just wasn't really all that popular. And so them doing something else with the second game probably made sense at the time. In hindsight, I think it was a mistake. The final thing I'll say is that while I can't, at least for now, reveal things that I saw and played and such about Heartland, the final thought I have about it is that I do have this feeling, and I unfortunately was never really able to express it to people, that nothing I ever saw from Heartland really seemed like it was gonna be a hit when it came out, to the point where I think what I saw seemed like something that would have been interesting if it came out in 2019 or 2020, maybe even 2021. But as a product that was potentially not even going to come out until 2025, I just think it missed its window. Whatever it was going to be, which maybe we can discuss more one day. I just don't think it was gonna capture. I don't think it was going to be pulling people from the genre it was trying to dive into from the other popular games. I think it would have mostly just catered to the Division fans, which is a larger player base than you think. But I don't think it was going to be what a lot of that fan base even wanted. And so I hate seeing this happen because I hate seeing wasted work. I hate seeing, even in the tiniest way, my own work for the last multiple years get, kind of, poofed away. But I do, and I always did kind of wonder if this project really had legs in the first place. So we'll never know, unfortunately. I am waiting to get some word on if there's going to be parts of the project that I can speak more explicitly on, maybe with the help of some former developers. I'll be able to talk about more in a more theoretical sense. So overall, I'm just bummed. It sucks. You hate seeing something like this happen. I'm assuming that it's true that Red Storm is probably going to assist in some capacity with X Defiant and Rainbow Six Siege. I really hope that as Star Wars Outlaws comes out for Massive this fall or late summer, and they work on DLC for that, and they wrap up development on that towards the end of this year, hopefully. That next year, when I assume development begins on the Division 3, I really hope Red Storm ends up being part of that list of 50 studios that's going to assist with that game, as most Ubisoft games end up going down the road of. So. Sucks for Heartland. I feel the worst for the devs. I question whether or not it was going to be a viable project in general. It's probably why it's getting cut, at least to some point. And I think it's a really good example of, good intentions with this and trying to make it a bigger independent thing may have ultimately sunk it and may have ultimately been bad for the franchise, because I truly believe that a BR mode coming out for the Division 2 in the sense of Survival 2.0 would have been a big boost to that game, more so than anything we've gotten otherwise. So I think that's quite a bummer, but is what it is. We're moving on, and we'll have to wait and see what comes of all of this, and maybe we'll see the Division 3 before my kid is in high school. So that's what I have for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you have your own thoughts about what's going on, please leave them down in the comments. If you like this video, if you want more Division news, gaming news in general, please subscribe to the channel. If you like this video, hit the like button, please. If you want to support what I do with these videos, my podcasts, my streams, please consider becoming a YouTube member. You get early access to videos like this, and you get a cool little logo beside your name when you comment. I think that's all I have for this one. So until next time.